4, 3, 2, 1.
Cue music.
This is Movies First with Alex First.
Before even entering the cinema to see Mary Magdalene, I was deeply concerned. Fearful I'd seen it all before, and it'd be a bit of a torture test. Unfortunately, I had every reason to be. If I see one more Jesus movie, I'll go he. Set in the Holy Land in the 1st century, Mary Magdalene is the story of a young woman who leaves her small fishing village and family to join a new movement. Inspired by its charismatic leader, Jesus of Nazareth, and his teachings, Mary sets out with his disciples on the journey to Jerusalem, where she finds herself at the centre of the founding story of Christianity. The story of Jesus is one that's inspired generations of filmmakers, from Pasolini's The Gospel According to St. Matthew and Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ to Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. Producers Ian Canning and Emil Sherman, while contemplating the notion of approaching a familiar story in a new and original way, started to consider retelling it from a different perspective. It was an archaeological discovery that planted the seed in their minds. The discovery of fragments of parchment in Egypt and Greece, which laid claim to be the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, sparked the idea that it would be interesting to tell the story from a woman's perspective. The initial script was written by playwright Helen Edmundson, who came up with the blueprint and drew together all the relevant texts into a narrative. Then Philippa Goslett worked on the script to bring a filmic edge and more dynamic between the disciples and Mary. Garth Davis, who directed Lion, is at the helm of this one.
You're listening to Movies First. For more, like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
First up, you need to know the Bible story to understand just what's going on. Secondly, its pacing is languid, and the language nonsensical mumbo-jumbo. Dare I be called a heathen? As far as I'm concerned, it's religious claptrap. Then there's the music. Quite frankly, it drove me bonkers. Just bring on another harp, I say. Even beautiful vistas can't hide giant leaps in time and narrative. I know Rooney Mara as Mary and Joaquin Phoenix as Jesus try hard with their mournful eyes and occasional dialogue to invest their very souls into their respective roles, but I'm afraid I just don't buy what they were selling. The film is bookended by a body floating through water. Enough said. Unless you're a religious zealot, go out and see something worthy, and that includes almost everything else showing at the moment, rather than sitting through what amounts to politically correct, esoteric nonsense. Also starring Chiwetel Ejiofor as Peter and Tahar Rahim as Judas, Mary Magdalene scores a 3 out of 10.
You've been listening to Movies First with Alex First. Subscribe to the full podcast at Audioboom, Stitcher and iTunes, or your favourite podcast distributor. This has been another quality podcast production from Bytes.com.